Jeremy, a crew lead here at Seattle Tree Care. We'll be doing a little bit of thinning on this beautiful cherry tree. We're also going to do some line clearance. I'm line clearance certified, so that's one of the reasons why I'm here on this specific tree, because it is touching the power lines. We're going to be removing some of those branches, some of those long scaffold branches, taking them back a bit just to kind of mitigate the risk of any limbs breaking off. So anything that's like overextended by a lot, or anything that's crossing, rubbing, touching, anything that's dead or dying, we'll be removing that to kind of get the tree back a little bit healthier. This tree obviously looks great. It's blooming out pretty well right now. We'll be using rifle pruners, which is a small little, it's kind of like a hand pruner but on a pole, so it's kind of like a long extended hand pruner to get some of the smaller branches. We'll also be using a nipper head, which is like a bigger rifle pruner. We'll use that to pull, make some bigger cuts. A lot of hand saw cuts probably from the porch. I got Cameron up here making some cuts already. Anything that's going over the property line, we're going to try to bring it back a little bit. So the difference between thinning and heading is if you're going to be cutting more of like the internal branches, like the interior branches, to kind of get more light to the main trunk. Whereas in heading, you're going to just be cutting the ends of almost, well, not all the branches, but you'll be making a heading cut is like cutting the end of the branch. Instead of like cutting some to like thin it out, you'll just take the tip of it off. And anything that's like growing back into itself, sort of, like this branch over here, since it's growing all the way across the rest of this, we probably just want to pop that off, and that'll thin it out as well. So that'll be right about. You know, you do a good bottom cut, and then you do a good top cut to prevent it from peeling. So if this was the branch, I'd do a nice deep bottom cut here, and then a top cut a little further out. So if it does peel down, it'll peel and stop right there where I made that bottom cut. And then we'll finish off the nub with another cut. So we call it the three cut method. A lot of trees tend to peel instead of just the branches just breaking, so it's never really a clean cut. So it's easier if you cut below it first, and then you can kind of finish the cut off, and it just looks it prevents it from peeling. But I left that one to kind of, so it'll kind of grow this way instead of keep growing over towards the house, because we're trying to get 2 feet of clearance, or 1 to 2 feet of clearance off the house. Hopefully the branch will, instead of putting energy into growing out further like this, it'll find the tip of it will be here, so it'll grow out and then it'll produce, it'll start putting more energy in the tips of this than growing towards the house. Kind of like how this one was previously. It was growing this way, and then it got cut off here, so then it's been spending its energy growing away from the house. So you just kind of have to pick and choose. You kind of imagine what the tree would look like without that branch. I would say the older the tree gets, the lighter you should probably go on the pruning, because it's getting to a mature rate where it's going to start growing a lot slower. So if you do take bigger cuts, it's going to take a lot longer for that to heal. So I think on the older trees, we kind of tend to go a little lighter. And I think this one's not the oldest cherry tree, but it's definitely getting to a mature growth where it's not going to be growing as fast as it previously was. Well, anytime we're pruning a tree, we kind of start with the 4 Ds, which is dead, dying, deranged, or disease. So any branch that seems like it's going to be growing a little crazy or growing across itself, it might create some rubbing, which can create a wound. So we'll try to take off anything like that first. And then after you take out all the dead, dying, deranged, and diseased branches, you can kind of see the tree's shape a little bit better. It'll open it up a lot more. And it's also just one of the steps for pruning, like any type of tree. You kind of just start with the dead, take off the dead wood, and then you can kind of start with anything that's crossing, rubbing, touching, growing back into itself. Things that have already healed like this, and unless the client wants this taken off aesthetically, that would be the only reason to cut this off. It's already starting to heal, so we wouldn't want to open up a fresh wound for no reason. There are a few equations that we use when we're pruning trees of all sorts, especially cherry trees or fruit production trees. Well, with the new tree code now, we have to take branches back to double the diameter. So if you're taking a limb that's 1 inch, it has to get cut back to something that's 2 inches. We don't want to take more than 15 to 20% of the live canopy. That's just to prevent sending it to decline. So we don't want to trim overly trim it, because if so, it could definitely be detrimental to the tree. Do a little research for sure. You know, you want to know what you're doing before you just start cutting on it. I would say cut smaller. Don't cut so big in the beginning. You know, try to figure out where your hand is on pruning trees. And yeah, I would say do research first before you start hacking on your own trees.